Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the RIP to our podcast. As you can tell, if you're watching the video version on YouTube, it's just me and Ash today. Tim and Luke can't be with us because they're being very, very selfish, and they've went to Universal Studios to have fun, basically, and left me and Ash in charge. So we thought we were sitting thinking, what could we do for an episode? We didn't want to do something that we wanted to get the other guys involved in and then miss out and stuff. And it just so happened Horror Night Nightmares dropped a Halloween Horror Nights spec map for Hollywood. And Hollywood is something we've never really talked about before on the show because none of us have been. And it's on the total other opposite side, of America to what we're used to. And they do things a little bit differently out there. I will admit, I don't know a ton about Hollywood. I've never massively been interested in the event. I know, Ash, you've done a little bit of research here and there, but I don't think your knowledge stretches as far as it does with Orlando. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. So, I mean, I've seen plenty of walkthroughs, digged a little deeper into the history, but nowhere near as much as Orlando. So it's good for us as well, to learn
Well,
as
this
well.
is it. This is it. And also, we were talking the other day that we would love to find somebody who lives on the West Coast to maybe do some reporting from Universal Hollywood. So if you will be frequenting the park often and planning to go to horror nights, we're basically looking for somebody who can take photos, construction updates. You're all allowed to do like walkthroughs, aren't you, in Hollywood? Is that right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yep. So if someone's got like a decent camera who could do some videos for the houses for our YouTube channel, that would be greatly appreciated. And just somebody who wants to join the RIP tour, not necessarily as a host. We're working on a few things in the background, and maybe he's getting not a website, but somewhere we can host different things, news reports and all that sort of stuff. It's just something cool just for us to sink our teeth into. So if you think you fit the mold of Rama, let us know. We'd love to add somebody to the team who knows a little bit more than us. But for now, you've got me and Ash who are just literally winging it today.
Oh yeah, I think our friends over at Horror Nights Nightmares, I think they tailored this episode or that map so we could release something this week. But I think a majority of our audience are more savvy with Orlando as well. So not just for us learning the history and going over that spec map, but I think the listeners and the audience will probably appreciate that as well, doing the Hollywood side.
Yeah. Well, for the people who don't know a ton about it, Ash the historian went back and he found some brief history. So do you want to talk us through that, Ash?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the Hollywood event, it has been a little bit turbulent in terms of consecutive years, as opposed to, Orlando being from 1991 and didn't miss a year all the way through, apart from, last year's kind of hiatus. But the actual original event, Halloween Horror Nights, did obviously start in Hollywood in 1986. Unfortunately, a tragic event did strike. That specific event, there was a, we don't want to talk about it too much. There was unfortunately a death on the tram ride that didn't means that they didn't open again until 1992. Now their 1992 event, they used the exact same marketing as Orlando with the pumpkin, the chainsaw through the pumpkin.
Yeah.
So they did use the same one. I think Orlando did use that for 92 and 93 as well. So Hollywood did use that one. And then they only did 92. And again, they wouldn't do another event until 5 years later, 1997, where they ran for 4 consecutive years then up to 2000. And then again, another hiatus from 2000 to 2006. There was no event. And then, interestingly enough, in 2006, there was an event with an icon. Their icon was called the director. However, his name was Pavel Pronevsky. You know how we have all these, funny things with the director on our coast where people don't know his name. They call him like Paul Ravioli or, just, and then the marketing getting it all wrong. But yeah, their director his name was Pavel Pronevsky. And then the year after, they actually had Jack Schmidt as the icon in 2007. And that was a coast-to-coast icon because he also did Orlando at the Carnival of Carnage. And that is it. They've had an event ever since 2006. It's been continuous since. Obviously, the pandemic struck, same as Orlando, so they had the postponement. And nowadays, Hollywood and Orlando tend to share properties with their own takes on shared IPs, and they do plenty of dual announcements as well, coast to coast. And they also have the Terror Tram, which also started in 2006 with the director's cut there as well. So just a brief history. Not so much Hollywood as a park history, but just their horror nights in general. But yeah, so it's been ever since 2006. It's been continuous, but prior to that, it was a little bit turbulent. No kind of real
Yeah.
flow of events.
I remember I was reading Christopher Ripley's book about the Hollywood side of things, and I can't remember the whole story, but I think part of the marketing for the director was they would have the actor hiding during the daytime on the backlot tour,
Right.
on the normal regular tram tour, and people would be pointing them out, and that was sort of some of the marketing where they were saying there was a guy hiding.
Oh wow.
I think I'll have to read his I'll have to grab his book and read the whole story again, or maybe he's asked Chris.
Yeah.
But there was something to do with that. I can't remember it fully. It's a bit hazy in my memory, but I'm sure people were like reporting of this guy like hiding or pretending to live on the tram tour, like on some of the sets or something. And I
Oh
think
wow.
I think it was a little bit marketing for Horror Nights.
Yeah. I
I'll
think
have to
as
get the book because it was his Hollywood and Around the World one of Horror Nights where he touched
oh
on
okay.
all the way around the world. So it was interesting, but I'll have to find that out and clarify it a little bit more.
Yeah,
But
that'd be
yeah,
especially because that's kind of like 2006, 14, 15 years ago. That's what they did is kind of like viral marketing before social media.
yeah,
Just putting somebody there and just kind of like the guests or the media kind of
hmm
run with it then. But yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, no real icons for them. They normally do not even themes really, to be honest. They just put a mishmash, I guess, of
yeah,
properties to their event. But yeah, just two icons that have existed really for them, but vastly different to the Orlando event.
yeah. Well, let's dive into the houses. And first up, we have Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This featured in The Titans of Terror in 2017, featured in Blood Brothers in 2016. The Saw is the Law, I love that name, in 2012. Leatherface was replaced by Jigsaw from Saw in 2010. And it also featured back in business in 2007 and 2008. Now, I have to be totally honest, Ash, here. Texas Chainsaw was one of the first horror movies I watched as a child,
Mhm.
and it terrified me
Yep.
when I
It
was younger,
yeah.
and I've never watched it since.
Oh really? Yeah,
Re-
I love the movie. And I think even though it's so old, it's what 70s, it's still,
yeah,
in my opinion, it still holds up well today. And it is a scary movie. I think it's the fear of the unknown, and then just
yeah.
slamming that metal door just really gets you.
No, I think one of the ones I watched was one of the remakes. It was one of like the newer one. I think was it like a 2009 one, maybe.
Yep. Yeah,
I
they've
think it
done,
was
they have done a remake of it. Yep.
it was probably that one. I've never watched the original, so maybe I'll have to add that to my list. So
Yeah.
I think now I've
Espe-
grown up and learned to love horror and all that sort of stuff. I think I would definitely appreciate it a ton more now.
Yeah, I think so. And like I mentioned, it does hold up really well. And I think
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this is just speculation yet, but I know we're not talking about Orlando too much. But if we do get the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in Orlando, you'll definitely have to watch the movie then for sure.
Oh, 100%. Even like this is just a little side tangent. I want to watch Hill House again. I want to get stuck into Creepshow, but I don't want to watch them until they're officially announced because that's
Yeah,
how I start my horror season by watching the property as soon as it's announced. I don't want to jump the gun basically, but
no,
I'm dying to get another watch through of Hill House.
yeah, and that's like your routine.
Yeah,
You get the announcement, and then you hype yourself up by watching, the media and the content. That's really cool. I mean, one thing I do notice about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and especially Leatherface, they've had a long history. I mean, what's that? One, two, three, four. I think it's featured 6 times already at
yeah.
that Hollywood event. So I can only imagine them having so many props out there they can just pull from,
Oh, for
and
sure.
and just make that such a good house there. And I think that's located in the lower lot, correct? That's down the escalator down in the lower lot. Is that right? On the map?
Yeah, next to the mummy, isn't it? Or
Yeah, I think
looking
it's
at the
in the
map.
Mummy, the extended queue for the
Yeah.
Mummy, possibly. Um,
I
yeah,
have
so
really bad knowledge of the Hollywood Park because I know it's on like multiple levels, isn't it?
yeah, so they have
Um,
they have they have the upper lot, lower lot, then they also have the tram tour on like
right.
the far right side. So can be confusing, but that's what happens when you build a theme park on the side of a mountain.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So what we got next, Ash?
we have a cult classic. One of my favorites is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which will be located in the Waterworld queue. So when you go through the front gate, um, the Waterworld attraction is there just to your right, I believe. Now, most important question: have you seen Halloween 3 Season of the Witch?
I have, yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
and how do you like? Because I know it does get polarizing opinions, I guess, from the horror community or Halloween fans in general. I mean, how do you like it without, uh, said Michael Myers in there?
So I don't see the issue with it because Halloween, just because I've had two movies of Halloween with Michael Myers doesn't mean that he has to feature in all of them. It's just a movie called Halloween, basically.
Yeah.
And it was actually when I watched it, because I've only recently watched it, I think it was just last like fall I watched it Halloween time.
Hmm.
I really enjoyed it as a standalone movie. Because I know from watching the In Search of Darkness horror documentary that they weren't planning on making any more Halloween movies. So that's how Halloween 3 came about. And I absolutely loved it. I thought it was really cool. It didn't bother me at all that Michael Myers wasn't in it.
Yeah, and I'm the same. And for me, I love the movie. And let me ask you another question then. Do you think they'll keep it true to the movie, or do you think they'll add? Because it is a cult classic. I think it's kind of like a niche kind of
Yeah,
audience for it. Do you think with the name Halloween, then Season of the Witch, and do you think they'll have Michael in it, or do you think they'll keep it true to the movie?
I think that they could go both ways. They could probably look at it from an outsider point of view, who the general public associate Halloween with Michael Myers.
Yep,
So they could potentially use him in maybe some of the merchandising or marketing.
that's true. Yeah,
Um, but if they want to make it, like a regular IP, then I think they would have to leave Michael Myers out of it. Because obviously he doesn't feature in the movie, and there's not a lot of IPs that you go where they sort of bend it from the sort of movie or show or whatever it is.
yeah, no, I agree. They can take properties. They normally have it pretty screen accurate.
Yeah,
They might plus some scenes here and there, but yeah, I think they should leave Michael out of it. To be honest with you, they have featured Halloweens 2015, 2016, and 2018. They did get the Hell Comes to Haddonfield one we had in Orlando,
yeah,
and they did get the return of Michael Myers as well. They did get those, but yeah, I'm just hoping, even though I probably won't get to see it, I'm hoping to keep it true, to the original source. Leave Michael out of it because if it's a hit, it's probably going to come over to the East Coast, I would assume.
yeah. That seems to be the trend, isn't it? That
Yeah,
it comes over here. Um, and I can't wait because obviously the West Coast houses are good, but every time Orlando does them, they tend to be 10 times better. From
right.
obviously, I've only watched the walkthroughs of the Hollywood ones, but take Stranger Things for example, the props in mannequins and costumes weren't nearly as near as good
No.
as they were in Orlando. So I think if we do get it in Orlando, I think it will become a special house.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. And like you say, I think especially the IPs from East Coast to West Coast are night and day. Recently in terms of
Yeah.
how they execute those. Yes, that's Halloween three Season of the Witch. It's exciting times for that one. And then do you want to take us to the next one, Gary? The
Yeah,
location
so we
C.
have C. Whereabouts is that on the map? Seems to be at the back end of the port. Is that class as the upper lot, Ash?
It's it is the tram. I think it's the entrance to the studio tour location.
Right.
Yeah,
So this is in the Curious George tent.
yeah,
Um, obviously we're getting Beetlejuice, same as Orlando. Obviously I haven't watched the walkthrough of the Orlando Beetlejuice. I want to go in with a total fresh mind. The only thing I'm thinking is I think the Orlando one will be 10 times better. Basically, I think they'll see obviously the textbook black corridors in the Beetlejuice one,
yeah.
um, and obviously we're getting the whole soundstage treatment on we're at the Beetlejuice one. So I think there's a lot more they can do with the Orlando one. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree, and I think you just made a great point there about those infamous kind of dark corridors.
Yeah,
That they tend to do that a lot in Hollywood, where it's just a blank dark corridor where there's kind of like stuff in your face. The black hangers that you got to move around and then just scares from either side. They do use those a little bit too much. I do agree. I think Orlando would be, or would I kind of would the property do it more justice, I believe.
yeah,
Um, But I think if you're going to the event, I think you've probably seen Beetlejuice. I would imagine both coasts to kind of just do, a screen accurate representation, just pulling
Yeah.
bits out. But we've heard a lot of people, and I'm same as yourself. I didn't watch the walkthroughs. I have seen pictures. Unfortunately, I stumbled on a couple of those. We won't go there, but yeah, I think from all accounts, without spoilers, people did really really enjoy the Beetlejuice house here in Orlando, even with where you could see scare actors should have been.
Yeah.
It was still a hit, so I can only imagine that getting better as well on this side.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think like what ones we just talked about there? The first one, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Beetlejuice, and also a couple of others that are coming. Do you think we'll get dual announcements? You think Orlando or Hollywood will announce at the same time?
It would make sense. In especially with things with COVID at the minute, I could see it from like a budget point of view.
Right.
I know this is probably going to sound stupid, but to get both properties together at the same time, especially like is Hollywood even open yet? The park,
It opened last week, I believe.
because obviously they'll have just hemorrhaged money.
Oh yeah, in
It,
a big way.
so Orlando is fortunate that it's been running. Since when did that open? Was it June, July
Yeah,
last
yeah,
year?
yeah. Like
Um,
summer of last year.
so Orlando didn't have much of a downtime. So I think it makes a lot of sense for them to have quite a lot, because I could be wrong again. This is just my lack of knowledge about Hollywood, but it doesn't tend to be a lot of cross like houses on either side. It tends to be
Yep,
like one or two. But looking at the list, obviously we've got 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 this year.
yep.
Is that right? Obviously we'll get into the houses in a second. So again, I can see it from their point of view. So to announce it together, if it is going to come, because there's nothing to say that this could change totally, you know what I mean? But normally Horror Night Nightmares are pretty spot on with their maps.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they are. You can usually take those as gospel. Those those spec maps, from
Yeah.
Horror Night Nightmares, they are usually spot on about those. And yeah, if you've not, I'm sure you have, but if you've not seen Beetlejuice and you're listening, make sure you see it before you go in, because especially the Orlando one will be screen accurate.
Yeah.
And I don't think you'll appreciate it as much if you don't watch it. You go to the next one.
Yep.
Perfect. So similar location. It is the Curious George tent. They have 2 tents, 1 and 2. I'm not sure which one it is, but this is the Curse of Pandora's Box 2. Now, did you watch the walkthrough? Correct.
I watched it when you sent it, and I watched it again just before the show to
Oh,
familiarize myself. And wow, it looks awesome.
yeah, I think this is going to be the only original. I mean, you can probably class maybe one of the houses coming up as maybe an original. A lot of people do see it.
Yeah.
I think we'll get to it, but this is the only original it looks like on this year's spec map. And yeah, like you said, the walkthrough was really, really good. And to have a sequel, literally because it was 2019, but to have a sequel literally 1 year after
Yeah.
the original one, just shows how much people did like that house. You want me to kind of give a quick run through the maze?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
Yeah, so the facade it says Pandora's Cabinet of Curiosities on the outside. You go in and it's kind of like an antique store, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's things like skeletons. We have the Anubis, the Egyptian kind of statue there, and then like a red light goes off, and like you're entering Pandora's box. And yeah, some of the scares, because they use UV lights, or UV paint.
I thought that looked awesome, because again, some of it where you thought was a black corridor and the light flashed and all the colours just came to life.
Yeah, and they
That
use the
was
strobes really well too.
It was
with
such
the
a
UV.
great use of the effect, yeah.
Yeah. And then they also had, did you see, well, you would have seen it, obviously, it was kind of like a yellow, like a monster, if you will, and it was like UV paint and yellow, and it was black, but it had yellow paint. It just blended into the background
Yeah.
with the strobes, and that was
And the
a
wolf,
real
wolf
scare.
puppet as well that popped out with
Oh,
the UV
yep,
lights. That was because it was like a
yep.
low down scare. So I think that was really awesome, yeah.
Yeah, that the wolf, and there was also the Medusa puppet as well that came
Yeah.
right in your face. That was really good because it was UV and strobe, so because it kind of looked stationary, and then came out. And then we did it was like spiders. That was pretty cool. The spiders,
The bird
um,
scene with the
yeah,
strobe lights again.
yeah,
I thought it would
really
have
really
been
cool.
better if they had made the birds move, put them on like a rotating rack or something like that. They looked a bit because they were static. But with the
Right.
sound effect and the strobes did help as well. I just thought it would have been a lot more cooler if, or even some
Yeah.
wind blowing just to get the puppets moving. Well, not puppets, the props moving.
Yeah. Yeah, and then towards the end, the kind of red light flashed again, and you exited the box, and the exit was right there. So yeah, really, really good. And I know for a fact this was a fan favorite. That's why it's coming back again. A lot of the props as well, Gary, they actually used from prior
Right?
houses. They used from Alien vs Predator, some of the Walking Dead houses, American Werewolf in London, some of their monsters, like a lot of the Universal monster stuff they used, and La Llorona was one of the houses. So they did kind of repurpose a lot of props to use in this
Yeah.
one. And also, it's number two as well, so it's a direct sequel, so that's good for the fans. It looks like they're getting a brand new take on it, not
Yeah.
not a rehash, which is really cool too.
And next up,
Perfect.
it's classed as a house, but it's a year-round attraction, and it is The Walking Dead. Everybody in Orlando knows how everybody feels about The Walking Dead. It was done to death. I did enjoy the houses because I did used to enjoy the show. Um, it's been recently closed for the daytime guests. So if it's been closed, is there going to be some changes in it? Will they've added maybe plexiglass? Because nothing's been meant. Obviously, we've seen the daytime houses from HHN Light, so we knew there was plexiglass. Could there be that sort of thing heading to Hollywood, or we're past that now where we can do it safely without it? Will they be making less scare actors in it so people are more socially distant? I've never even watched a walkthrough of this attraction because by the time it opened, I was totally burnt out
Yeah.
of The Walking Dead. Maybe I should go after I recorded the show. Um, and watch a walkthrough of it. I'm very surprised Orlando didn't open this. When Terminator closed, I really thought Walking Dead was going to go there. To be honest with you,
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that would have been for that specific property at the time. That probably would have been a good location
yeah,
for it as well. But yeah, the year round event has been there for quite a while. I think it's from 2016. It's been there.
yeah,
I think so. And then but I think what for the event they just put more scare actors in. But like you said, are they going to take precautions with the pandemic in terms of less scare actors than normal, plexiglass, things like that? And I think a lot of people, it's not just yourself. I think a lot of people got burnt out, not just with
yeah,
not with the properties in Orlando, but with the actual TV show itself.
yeah. Because
It
it's
was, I
it's
think,
it's
yeah,
the same premise every season now,
yeah,
isn't it? Find somewhere safe, build, get resources.
yeah,
Humans come and attack them, burn it down, move to the next one. So
yeah,
I really didn't think they could carry on with the Walking Dead for
yeah.
another year anyway. Maybe it's
No, I
a
agree.
daytime attraction at Orlando. I think they could have got away with that because a lot of daytime guests who love the Walking Dead who wouldn't
Mhm.
necessarily go to horror nights, it would be good for them. But again, I think during the actual horror nights event, I think it would be sort of one of the more quiet houses.
Yeah, no, I
For me
agree as
anyway.
well. Yeah, and like you said, so I have persevered with the show. I'm up to date on the show, but like you said, they're not moving the story, and I feel like a storyline happens, and then they don't do anything with the storyline. It's just from like the next 5 episodes are from 5 different characters' point of view of what that is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's just no moving
yeah,
on with the storyline at all. But I have stuck with it, and I just think it was getting less and less relevant to people. But I think it was good to have The Walking Dead for those 5 years because it did bring in the crowds initially
yeah.
and it kind of started the renaissance of the kind of IP years.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and that actual year-round attraction has hosted other things as well. It's had like the Universal House of Horrors. It's had like a Chucky one there one time, and then other Universal monster stuff. So they do use it now and
Yeah.
again for different properties. And I think once Walking Dead's kind of over or becomes, I guess, less relevant, they might change it to something different there.
Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
So what we got next, Ash?
Perfect. So Soundstage 29 is The Haunting of Hill House, another maze that was on the spec map for Orlando as well. This is in the lower lot as well, same as Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I'm not 100% sure if that Soundstage 29 is the biggest location. I know it did hold Stranger Things there in the prior
Right.
year, so I can't imagine it being one of the bigger kind of locations they have there. But we probably again maybe get that dual coast announcement. But we were just talking about Hill House a moment ago, and I know you really enjoy the show and you've digged a little deeper into how things are filmed and behind the scenes. I'm really, really looking forward to this one in Orlando. But yeah, I just assume Hollywood will do their own kind of take on it.
Yeah.
But
It
yeah,
would
just
be cool if obviously looking at the list, this is apart from Halloween 3, this is probably going to be their standout house.
right.
The one that's going to draw the crowds in. Um, and I really hope they do it justice because I love the Netflix partnership with Universal.
Yeah,
Because Netflix is pumping out some amazing content. We did have Sabrina on the spec map last year, so could that come back next
yeah,
year possibly? Um, who knows? So again, yeah, I hope Hollywood knock it out of the park. I know Orlando will if it does come. That house will be absolutely amazing. Because normally when you get an IP, I find that IPs are more visually pleasing than scary. But Hill House is a creepy show, and it's not necessarily a terrifying show, but it's one of those
mhm,
shows where you build up the anticipation until something pops and then sort of calms down again.
yeah.
I think that's how this one's going to have you going through. You're going to get a build up, good scare, drop, calm, back up again. That's just my thoughts anyway.
Yeah, no, no, that's good. I'm glad you mentioned that as well because that, especially the IPs that have been, recently like the Ghostbusters, Stranger Things, what I would expect Haunting of Hill House is, very similar, a beautiful, aesthetically pleasing house, not I guess terrifying, but more like psychological scares,
Yeah,
scares that you're not kind of used to. I think last year as well, if the event would have got ahead, I think it would have been the perfect timing because it was fresh. Haunting of Bly Manor was about to come out as well,
yeah,
so I think it would have been. I still think it will hold up. I think it's got a lot of repeat watchability about it, and I think for Hollywood this will be a crowd driver in a
yeah.
sense, especially using a bigger soundstage for it. So
So
yeah,
here's a
just
little question for you, like a side question. Do you think Bly Manor could be made into a house because that was such a totally different show from Hill House? Do you think they could do it as a house?
That's a great question. The only thing I don't think it would. Well, maybe it would like hold up on its own. Maybe.
Because at the end
Um,
of it, it turned out to sort of be a love story.
right. Yeah.
Um,
Completely different pace as well
yeah,
to the original. Maybe if they did, I
I
don't know if they
found it a
could.
hard watch to be honest. After
I
watching Hill
did.
House,
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think I think the first first 3 or 4 episodes I watched maybe in a day or two, and then the last three took me
yeah,
about a week.
yeah,
It was getting a little bit dragging.
yeah. I think if I watched Bly Manor first and then it followed with Hill House, I think I would appreciate Bly Manor a ton more. But because I had the high expectations from Hill House going into Bly Manor, I was expecting a lot more. But it was still great, to look at the arc of the characters and stuff like that. The sets were good.
Yeah.
But I just found the storyline to just slowly decline towards the end.
Yeah, no, I'd definitely agree with that. And I think the only way I don't think it'd be a standalone house. Maybe if they added it, to the end of Haunting of Hill House, but I don't think
Maybe it's
that would
just a
do.
room or something.
Yeah, maybe a nod to it, or maybe some Easter eggs, maybe nodding to
Yeah, that would be
that
cool.
that property. But I think with when they did Stranger Things 2 and 3 together, I think it did kind of dilute it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
I
Because it
think
concentrated on season 2, and then season 3 got what I call a cameo,
yeah,
and it just didn't work because everybody wanted season 3 basically. So,
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, we don't want to dilute each property, but yeah.
so we have the last one, Ash.
Yeah, and this is a house or a maze that we saw HHN Light, and it looks like it is coming back to Orlando, and looks like it's coming to Hollywood too. It is the Bride of Frankenstein Lives that will be located in the Parisian courtyard, and that is as you go in the park entrance, it's straight ahead at the Universal Plaza, straight ahead there. Um, I would assume they're going to keep it similar to the Orlando maze, just because it is their own kind of take on a specific story with the Universal monsters. And this is what we were talking about earlier, whether is it an IP, is it an original?
Yeah.
Um, so it's a tough one because these characters are coming from their own catalog of movies. So
Hmm.
um, yeah, and I think this location as well did have the Universal monsters back in 2018, so it's probably a good location to keep the Universal monsters going in that low. That was a funny. They had Universal monsters, same as we had over here, but the music was by Slash.
Yeah, which was crazy.
throughout the maze. Yeah, just
Yeah.
they do like little quirky things over there. But I mean, do you expect this to be the same because it's kind of their own story, I guess, on a kind of a property, I guess?
Um, I can't see it being a mirror image. I can see them doing, Murdy doing his own take on it because
Yep.
he likes to do things quite quirky.
Yep.
So will they do it totally different? Could they do something crazy like doing the whole thing in black and white or something
Right.
like that?
Yep.
Just as to sort of stand out from the Orlando, because I do feel bad for Hollywood in a way because they do sort of, get bad mouthed and they do get, like you mentioned, diluted because of the Orlando event. So, Orlando seems to be the golden child. Um, in Hollywood that they have less of a budget, so they can't pull as much of the crazy stuff off. But there still is a ton of work that goes into what still is outputted into the event. Um, so I think sometimes some of the things that they do is to try and make it stand out. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. But I think from this year onwards, especially because obviously we're doing the show, I'm going to probably pay a lot more attention to Hollywood.
Right.
I tend not to watch the walkthroughs. I watched the Stranger Things one because I wanted to compare it to my experience in Orlando, and see how, like, I don't want to say bad, but how much better the Orlando one was.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, it's a learning curve. It's its own event, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
it's hard to compare it to Orlando because they are different in many ways.
Yeah, I don't think you can compare it. Like you just said, they are completely, even though it's the same kind of banner, it's two completely different events.
Yeah,
Um, and like you say, we are, I guess, novices on the Hollywood side, but we talked about us learning about it, talking about it, and also I would say, a big percentage of our listeners and audience would, not be too savvy on how the operations work there, on history, on houses or walkthroughs, etc. So it's always good to kind of talk about this and learn other things as well.
yeah. But that's it for the houses. There's only going to be six official houses, and then the Walking Dead attraction, if you want to class that as a house. Now, something interesting on here is they are listing no scare zones. Now, doesn't Hollywood usually just have one scare zone theme? Like, is that every year, or was that just one year where they did like the purge across the whole park?
I think that was just 1 year. So they do the kind of Terror Tram, which it's been themed to the Purge, it's been themed to the Walking Dead in the past, and they
Because you
have
get off at some point, don't you? You walk through and then you get back on.
that is correct. Yep. But
Yeah.
I think in their most recent event from 2019, I think they had 4 official scare zones.
Right. Right.
Um, I think they had 3. I think they had 3 up in the upper lot, and then they had um, one in the lower lot where the mummy and the soundstage is. In fact, let me just take a quick. Yeah, 2019. So they had 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like, and they had the Jabberwockies show, the dance show as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And they've got no shows listed again this year as well.
yeah,
So that's interesting.
yeah, it's a surprising one, especially with like a theater. You can probably social distance in a theater as well, but
Yeah.
you never know. They may announce something, or a new or an updated spec map may get um, announced down the road. But I think the IP to originals here is pretty surprising as well. I mean, what is it, 6-1 in
Yeah.
in favor of it? Well, I mean, we have the year round attraction, but yeah, 6-1 in favor of the IPs. I wonder if that's a little bit easy for them in terms of maybe the pandemic, in terms of labor, to have something a little bit more ready
Plus,
for them because they can pull it. Yeah,
yeah, and licenses as well. Because if
yep,
Orlando's already got it, it's going to be a lot easier
that's a great point.
to share it across both coasts, getting that written up in a contract rather than Hollywood having to pay for a totally separate IP that Orlando isn't using.
Yeah,
So I think this year, even on both coasts, a lot of it's going to be on saving money and trying to rebuild the event, basically. Which I'm happy to support, and I'm happy to drop hundreds of dollars on merchandise, hundreds of dollars on beer, everything, all the good stuff.
yeah, no, me too. And I think, like you said as well, I wonder if in terms of the licensing, whether it's licensed to Universal Studios, that way they don't have to kind of check any of these boxes where they can use it at different parks, or
That's
maybe
a good shout,
that's
yeah.
that might be where they're going with that. But yeah, it's definitely fun to go through, an event we're not too
Yeah, it's
familiar
good to
with and
look
go
at
through.
something totally different. again, sorry if there's any massive Hollywood fans out there that we don't know a ton, but we were just going to concentrate on Orlando, but we thought we'd expand into it because it is a ton, of cool backstory, like Ash gave a bit of there. And it's good to see the differences, and we want to support, the event as a whole. We're not just a fan of Orlando, we're a fan of Universal Studios as a whole, everything that the parent company does and stuff like that. So again, it was just a nice little show. We didn't want to skip like this week altogether with Tim and Luke not being here. We still wanted to get a show out, and then this just happened to come up. So we thought, why not just talk about it? But before we go, Ash, Tim did leave us a voice message.
Ooh.
Should we have a listen?
Let's listen.
Hey guys, first time caller, long time listener. Sorry I can't be there today. I'm on my way to Universal Studios. Suckers. Brady, what are we doing?
I'm dragging this guy along to watch me ride the Velocicoaster that I'm maybe going to pee my pants on.
To me, that sounds like a fun time. I want to see that. But anyway, here's my question for you for today's topic. Halloween 3, rumored out in Hollywood this year. If that is the case, do you think this comes to the event in Orlando next year?
Brady thinks no.
Nobody cares. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great show. We'll see you sometime soon.
See you, boys.
Bye.
I'm totally not jealous. Not that I would ride Velocicoaster because I'm not a massive coaster fan, but just jealous of them getting to go to the parks.
Well, yeah, just even going to the parks in general. I am so jealous. Now, I do have my Velocicoaster mug for my coffee. I also have my Hagrid's Motorcycle Adventure tumbler for my water, so I'm there in spirit.
I've literally got nothing with me today.
Yeah, so jealous. I would be riding it if I was there today. I did have a reservation, but I did cancel it, realizing I could not get there. Every intention was to try and get a flight out there. They were just too expensive, not financially feasible at this point. But Ash,
yeah, soon you're going to be living there.
That's it.
You can touch it. It's so close.
Yeah, touching distance. But and also my good friend Matt, who is from Buffalo as well, he's actually down there as well. He's showing me some non-spoiler pictures also, which is nice.
Yeah,
He listens to the show, so I think he'll.
Well, hello there, Matt.
As well. But yeah, it's always good to hear from callers, and like you said as well, if we have, I don't think we have butchered anything, but in terms of people being more savvy about Hollywood, they can always message us. We'd love to hear, their experiences. Yeah,
100%.
That'd be nice.
So to answer Tim's question, I do think having it on the Hollywood side is what test, not so much test, but to see how it's received, because it's usually Orlando gets it the year after and then absolutely crushes it. So I would love to see the creative team in Orlando smash Halloween 3. I think it would be awesome.
Yeah, and I agree as well. Sorry, Tim, I completely forgot about your question. I was just off off on a tangent about how jealous I am. But I think just to echo what you said, Gary, perfect analogy. It's going to be kind of like a dress rehearsal. See how it plays out over there, and then if it does work, if the fans are receptive to it, because I think they did Creep Show in 2019, and that looks like it's coming this year.
Yeah.
So
twice.
yeah. So it looks like that was, and I think that did get a good reception as well, bringing it to this coast. So I think it will come next year, maybe the year after, possibly. But I think it's got to come. They've done what 1, 2, 4. It's coming. It's coming. I can feel it next year. I'm gonna have to disagree with Brady on that one. I think it is coming.
And some of the merch. I hope they've got the masks, because I will have to buy one of those.
Yeah, and maybe they could do like a Silver Shamrock area in like a tribute store as well.
Or what about Finnegan's?
Oh yeah.
Turning that into a Silver Shamrock bar.
Yeah,
or something like that. That would be pretty cool. Or even a exclusive drink there. The green beer for St. Patrick's Day. So maybe something like that would be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and having those nice on like you said, like an RPT shirt, even like a Blinky cup with. Oh, we need to be part of the merch. We need to be part of the creativity. I think
we're getting excited on something that's not even coming to Orlando yet.
Oh boy.
But I think that pretty much wraps this show up. Again, it wasn't planned to be a long show. Again, we just wanted to get the content out for you guys and me and Ash just wanted to have a little chat about this, so why not do it at a show? But again, guys, if anyone listening is in the Hollywood area and wants to who goes to the park often, that's the main thing for us. Somebody who's there often, 2-3 times a week, probably, Ash. I know there will be people who do that, but we want somebody who can be there often, who can get to the new stuff, construction updates, who can film some house walkthroughs for our YouTube, come on the show from time to time, to talk about their experiences over in Hollywood. That would be pretty cool. And help with the social media side of things. That would be awesome, because obviously we've got Orlando lockdown covered. You know, there's going to be 3 people in Orlando, and then I'll be there, hopefully this year, for my vacation. So we just need somebody in Hollywood. So let us know. Again, guys, keep an eye on our Twitter at RIP to our podcast, because we will be putting links out where you can dial into the show and leave us voice messages, just like Tim did there. And you can get involved with whatever topic of the show is. We're posting Instagram stories and posts over on there at RIP to our podcast. We're also on YouTube now at RIP to our. We don't have a custom URL yet because we need 100 subscribers. I think we've got just shy of 50 subscribers. So if you're watching on the YouTube version, hello. We're trying to get more consistent with them, but they do take quite a lot of time to edit. Again, I hope you liked the theme that I've made for the last one. I think I've saved it as a template. So hopefully every show looks the same and uniformed. But yeah, we're just churning away. Ash is a solid addition to the team. I know he's sitting there right in front of us, but he's a solid addition because he's churning out the history side of it for us and all the facts and all the tidbits and stuff like that. It just makes our life so much easier and hopefully more interesting for you guys.
Yeah, it's a labor of love for me. To keep churning out these history stuff. But yeah, nice just to get on. We'll leave the history. We'll leave the I guess the meatier episodes for all 4 of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just nice to get on and talk about something we wanted to talk about anyway, like you said. But yeah, the goal is just to keep putting content out there because we enjoy it anyway. So why not release that to people who also enjoy it? But yeah, really.
100%. So I think that wraps it up for this week, guys. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. And we'll catch you next week when hopefully all 4 of us are back. So bye.
Bye.